Shang Chi star Simu Liu has called out Disney CEO Bob Chapek for calling Shang Chi an interesting experiment. I saw Bob Chapek said this a few days ago. I didn't cover it because I didn't think it was going to turn into anything, really. But it has, and this could be bad for his career. They don't like stars calling them out. What's his face from Justice League, Cyborg? Ray Fisher. He's done. There's no way he's getting a big role again, or at least for a while. After everything he's pulled with Joss Whedon, I don't see how that goes well for him. And if he continues down this path, if this movie flops, especially, which I think it will, he could be done. He might still have this role, but who knows. But this article is from Variety by Elise Schaefer. The title, Shang-Chi star Simu Liu responds to Disney CEO calling Marvel's film's theatrical release an interesting experiment. Simu Liu, we just basically said this. Following the opening of Free Guy this weekend, Shang-Chi is set to be one of the first Disney films to have an exclusive theatrical release during the ongoing COVID pandemic. Though the theatrical window has been shortened to 45 days, all of Disney's recent releases, like Jungle Cruise, Black Widow, and Cruella, have been simultaneously released in theaters and on Disney Plus Premier Access. With the Delta variant causing COVID concerns to rise, moviegoing has yet to return to a healthy rate. During Disney's most recent earnings call, Chapek commented that Shang-Chi's exclusive theatrical release would be an interesting experiment for the company. And on his comment, it's basically an excuse for it flopping in advance. Oh, we're just experimenting. If it flops, or if it doesn't do well, then it's just an experiment. It won't happen again. So, it's a preemptive excuse. I don't think it has anything to do with race, but as you'll see in a minute, or in a second, he does. On Shang-Chi, we think it's actually going to be an interesting experiment for us. This is Bob Chapek speaking. Because it's only got a 45-day window for us, Chapek said. So the prospect of being able to take a Marvel title to the streaming service after going theatrical at 45 days be yet another data point to inform our actions going forward on our titles. Wouldn't it basically be the same thing? Maybe worse? Because if there is the people that won't go to the theater, and all of a sudden when it comes on Disney Plus they watch it, wouldn't it be the same thing as putting it on Disney Plus and theatrical at the same time? Because in the lawsuit with Scarlett Johansson, they defending themselves, basically saying that those people wouldn't have gone anyway. That would be their argument. So this doesn't make any sense and how this would be much different. I don't even think it's not even going to be Premier Access. It's just going to be on there. Liu seemed to respond to that comment on Saturday morning when he posted on social media saying that Shang-Chi, which is Marvel's first agent superhero film, is, quote, not an experiment. Shang-Chi or Shang-Chi. I guess he says Shang-Chi. So, I guess we'll go with that. We are the underdog, the underestimated. We are the ceiling breakers. We are the celebration of culture and joy that will persevere after an embattled year, Liu wrote. We are the surprise. I'm fired the fuck up to make history on September 3rd. Join us. This is his tweet. In his Instagram post, which I don't have here, Liu was a bit more direct, writing, We are not an interesting experiment, in quotation marks. During the earnings call, Chapek did express that the release plan for Shang-Chi is not ideal, saying that title was planned on being in a much more healthy theatrical environment. Disney has released 2 other films with predominantly Asian casts, the live-action epic Mulan and the animated feature Raya and the Last Dragon on Premier Access during the pandemic. representatives for Disney and Liu did not immediately respond to Variety's request for comment. Yeah, I mean, I don't think his comments had anything to do with race. This is what they do. They turn everything that is not positive in their direction into something to do with race or gender. It's just tiring and it's just ridiculous how much they do this. It doesn't mean anything anymore. Every time you see somebody cry race, pull the race card or the gender card, I just almost immediately discard it. Long story short, I think his response is bullshit. I don't think he should be calling him out for that. I think Chapek's comments are an excuse, definitely, but it has nothing to do with race, and I think he's gonna be in for the surprise, and we aren't. But I just love seeing the fighting between Disney and their stars. It's just so funny to watch. What's the quote from Joker? Sometimes you just have to watch the world burn, or something like that, and you get what you fucking deserve. It's exactly what it is. But I want to get into the box office projections, because that's not looking good either. This is from Box Office Pro. They have pros and cons, but almost none of these are pros. The first one is, that's about it. Here's the first pro. It goes without saying that Marvel Studios brand is as close to a sure bet as there is. Not just in the world of movies, but in the entertainment industry at large. Black Widow well, I guess this isn't even either. Black Widow solid 80 million box office debut in North America underscored that strength in July. How about the weeks after that? And not mentioning that, I've already looked through these, doesn't mention in the cons, spoiler alert. So, they just ignore that. As have 3 massively successful streaming series on Disney Plus. How do you know that? They didn't give us numbers. There's nothing to say that those are massive successes. So that's complete bullshit. That makes this type of franchise-centric film that could reel in casual moviegoers, and it'll be available only in cinemas for 45 days. Is that a pro? It's going to be only in cinemas for 45 days? I don't know. Second one, appeal to Asian American audiences will be significant as the first major superhero of Asian descent joins the evergreen mythos of the MCU. Such an underserved movie-going demographic previously drove Crazy Rich Asians to an enormous box office success in 2018, while also representing a significant makeup of pandemic-era recovery opening weekends like those of Godzilla vs. Kong and Demon Slayer, Mugen Train. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But I don't know about the Asian American audience, but the Chinese audience is not happy with it. In fact, it's probably going to be banned in China because they think it's racist. They think it's stereotypes. It looks generic as fuck, and I just don't know it'll have the same effect that Crazy Rich Asians had on Asian American audiences. I just don't think it looks that interesting, and looking at Google Trends, people aren't really interested in it either. So, it might not go as you expect. Rest of these, oh yeah, this one is a pro, but next one, debuting over Labor Day weekend is an unprecedented move for any Hollywood tentpole release, as the weekend has often been seen as the buffer between summer and fall movie seasons. As such, the bar for Shang Chi to achieve a record for the holiday frame isn't particularly high, even by pandemic standards. At 26.4 million over 3 days and 30.6 million in 4 days, 2007's Halloween reboot from director Rob Zombie has held the Labor Day opening high mark for 14 years. That's a con. That's not a pro. If there's not a high bar for it to break a record, then that's not a pro. It just means it might make less than what it could if it wasn't on Labor Day weekend. What kind of pro list is this? Next one. Marketing has seen a significant jolt in recent weeks as Disney's machine revved up consistent promotional spots during the Olympics and across other major television events and online platforms. As the next high-profile release on the schedule for movie theaters after August 13th's Free Guy, it's safe to expect that push to continue building over the next 3 weeks. Yeah, I guess their marketing is a pro. I'll give you that one. There. Next one. Marvel Studios. Actually, I mean, the amount of marketing they have is a pro, but I don't think the marketing's been that great. The marketing, the trailers aren't very good. They're kind of just so generic. The only interesting thing that was in there was Abomination. So, I guess that's a pro, but the marketing isn't even that great. Marketing material isn't even that great. Next one. Marvel Studios has a strong history when it comes to mining unknown characters and stories into instant successes. A fair comparison in Shang Chi's case may be that of Ant-Man, which is, even as a relatively contained film, by that point in the franchise's history, drew a very respectable $57.2 million domestic opening back in July 2015, liking out to $180.2 million and $520 million worldwide. It's one of the lowest performing Marvel movies, at least MCU movies. That's not a pro either. They're trying so hard to cover their asses. Wow. As Disney's first theatrically exclusive release of a tentpole film during the late pandemic and mid-vaccine era, this will be a true stress test of where movie-going sentiment and comfort levels are at heading into the fall season. I don't know if that's correct grammar there. Recent moves to mandate vaccination passes in theaters across markets like New York City and Los Angeles could play an integral role in trends throughout the weeks ahead, potentially helping vaccinated moviegoers feel more safe to return, at the same time alienating unvaccinated people. This is not a pro. What a terrible list. And it just gets worse with the cons. They just repeat some of the same stuff in this. The state of the pandemic is integral to any and all forecasts right now, and a Marvel film is no exception. As of mid-August, moviegoer sentiment is down slightly from early summer highs due to the rise in severe virus cases and hospitalizations among the unvaccinated population, blaming the unvaccinated. Research firm NRG reported earlier this week that moviegoing comfort levels stood at 67% as of Monday, August 9th, down from 70% 1 week earlier. It might be easy to compare a glass-ceiling shattering film like Shang Chi to the enormous breakouts of Wonder Woman, Black Panther, and Captain Marvel, but this film's circumstances are quite different. The former of those comparisons were still relatively well-known and iconic names to the uninitiated. Was Black Panther? I mean, he was really good in Civil War. I thought he was better in that than he was in his own movie. I think his own movie is overrated. It gets worse every time I watch it. While Captain Marvel had already been briefly introduced to a massive audience at the end of Avengers Infinity War, and Marvel made sure to feature her prominently in all marketing leading up to the historic release of Avengers Endgame. The Ten Rings was alluded to as a terrorist organization, an easy-to-miss Easter egg, all the way back in 2008's Iron Man, but outside of that passing reference, Shang Chi himself isn't generally known beyond most of the die-hard fan circles. I'm surprised they acknowledge that Captain Marvel is shoehorned in, basically. But yeah, you can't compare this to those at all. That is definitely a con. As mentioned, the Labor Day release is unprecedented for a major franchise film. You're just repeating the same things, you're putting it in both categories. It's a con. While a number of mid to late September releases have shown the potential for blockbuster scheduling in the past years, namely the It movies, The Nun, the 2 Hotel Transylvania films, and others, this is a holiday weekend many people are accustomed to using a final opportunity for a vacation or break before the full-fledged return to work and school in the fall. The aforementioned vaccination passes, again, another one that was in pros, now it's in cons. The aforementioned vaccination passes that will be required for cinemas in New York City and potentially other markets by Labor Day could potentially hinder some of the family audiences that would typically show up for Marvel films given the all-ages appeal. I don't know if they're requiring it at theaters, but San Francisco is doing something similar. Specifically, kids under 12 who are not yet eligible for any COOF vaccines. If regional governments don't allow for exemptions, details on that end may not yet been clarified. So now that we've gone through the pros and cons, let's look at the projected numbers. This is as of August 13th. So that was 3 days ago. Let's look. And not good. 35 million to 55 million projected opening day weekend domestic. And domestic total forecast range at 100 million to 165 million. So, not looking good at all. I mean, that's a flop if I've ever seen one. Gonna blame the pandemic. I might continue with the experiment narrative. I mean, this is not looking good. Have 2 flops in a row, and then Eternals coming up. That's gonna get delayed, probably. There's gonna be another lockdown. I hate to say it, but I mean, let's be real. Probably gonna be, or at least more restrictions. It's gonna be lockdowns in blue cities and states. Like in the bigger those are the biggest markets. LA, New York City, and then we'll see what happens in other places, Chicago. You're gonna have lockdowns in those areas and restrictions, and I mean, at least they're gonna try. We'll see what happens. But it's not looking good for Marvel. Gonna have 3 flops in a row, I think, and that's big. That could change the direction of the MCU. Even they might. I mean, Phase 4 is kind of set in stone, so don't expect anything throughout that to change. But Phase 5, you might see a big shift back to kind of what they were. Get rid of most of the identity politics. So we'll see, but I think that's a real possibility if they keep losing money. But not looking good for Shang-Chi, and I don't know that's looking good for Simu Liu. But I love seeing the dumpster fire that is Disney right now. It's just so fun to watch. Even though they might be in the right for both the lawsuit and this little controversy here. This controversy. So, we'll see what happens. But let me know what you think of all this. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more, comment, share. I have another channel called The Thoughtful Outlaw Sports, where I talk about baseball, basketball, football mostly, but anything else sports related I'm interested in. So if you're interested, check that out. I just posted a review of The Suicide Squad today, so go check that out. And see you next time. Bye-bye.